All right. Well, here we go. It's been a while, so that's what I labeled it. It's a little hot in here too. Um, get my drink. Sweating and everything. Uh, see here. I don't anticipate much activity at the moment. So as I get started here, just seeing what's going on. Oh no. Hey, what's up, Fate? Glad you joined, man. I have a special note here to speak to one of your posts, your rant that you were talking. You were like, FMCSA needs to do this and do that, and regulate shippers and everything. Well, had an idea. Uh, we should share maybe this information out. If we direct, or anyone really, for that matter, wants to take action in some way, maybe it should be directed toward like the U.S. Department of Commerce or something like that. I haven't researched exactly the actual government entity, but it's probably the Department of Commerce at the U.S. or federal level, because the FMCSA is for motor carriers, not shippers, and then TIA, Transportation Intermediary Association, or whatever, that's for brokers. So really, the shippers and manufacturers and things would probably be uh, regulated by other entities. I'm just throwing out Department of Commerce because they might have some say in or some ability to apply the appropriate. I don't want to say pressure because that's like negatively associated, but just uh, some kind of a mechanism, or place to start to find out where the manufacturers or shippers or that type of organization, what associations they're involved with. Since I haven't even done a search to even know. And that's all I was thinking. I was thinking, yeah, maybe that would be a better place instead of sharing our concerns with people that can't do anything about it. It's basically what I'm thinking. So yeah, that was something I wanted to speak about since I've finally started listening and everything again to everyone since I've been gone, and just to give an update on anybody that I haven't spoken with or haven't told. I was fixing the house or whatever, and uh, just going through, I guess. Okay, this is finance stuff. So I wanted to, because everyone's doing this doom and gloom, all this stuff, and liquidity and credit may be something that'll be harder to get in the near future. They're forecasting, it's not financial advice, all that stuff. That it's just what I'm doing as an individual. I wanted to make sure that I had enough cash available to sustain some really negative outlook, that's coming down the road, if it happens that way. If not, I just basically have cash sitting there, not necessarily being productive. However, I did find a 5% interest in a money market account, and I had to research that. There was an offer at a bank. I'll even say it, Old National in Indiana, um, and they haven't had, until, I don't know, maybe June 30th or something. You can open up an account with new money if you're not already in the bank there, and there are others that are doing short term interest rates, just to kind of, I think they're just like everyone else, foreseeing an impending strife of some sort. So that's why they're maybe bringing in more money to their bank as well. It's hard for me. It's really hard for me to speak, because when I start saying that the banks are trying to pull money in, I don't. It's not trying to cause anybody or incite anyone to get irrational and take all their cash and hide it and all that stuff. But it's just kind of like being frank about sort of how, in my understanding, the process works. So yeah, cash is king. So yeah, that most definitely is a big component. Cash is different than liquidity. It's kind of it starts getting into all these other topics that I don't really feel comfortable talking too much about yet. I don't know. Maybe I'll get used to talking about it a little bit, but before I get too far along, I want to make sure I cover the wire. This is the finance, uh, dirty laborer, mechanic, greasy guy, whatever. So the jack of all trades and all that stuff. Well, here's something that I found on my trailer, and I wanted to show it to everyone. It's kind of just something that I haven't seen a whole lot of, or haven't seen anybody else show, for those that don't know what's going on with certain things, mechanically and things. This is this is what I found with my lights were going out. I couldn't figure it out for a while. I thought I just didn't know what was happening. I looked around and nothing seemed to be wrong. But then here is the connector that I had to replace. This is the thing that plugs into the light. And what happened, I don't know if you can see, this white one, I don't think it's showing too much corrosion. It could be that that my videos aren't good or anything, the pixels and all that. But if you can see that brown or black wire, whatever you want to call that color, you can see that green in there. That's the corrosion. And that wire is literally gone. When I saw it, I bent it, and a lot of green stuff fell out of there. So that just looks like a copper penny. And so that was the cause of it. It would connect and stay on, while I had it pushed in and moved around, until I finally hit it just enough. The salt and everything else probably got into that. I don't know how the insulation eventually deteriorates, but age or use or people pulling it in and out, all kinds of stuff. But I thought I'd show that, for anybody that's interested in seeing little stuff like that. And then, because I'm being extra special and made a little list. Yeah, Fate. Well, thanks for jumping in, man. I appreciate anybody participating. I didn't really think even any of this would go out to many people. So it's 11:30 Eastern time, 10:30 where I'm at here in Missouri. So I appreciate it, man. Hey, Nevada, what's going on, man? I haven't seen you around in many chats either or either, but I haven't been participating much myself. Uh, Glad to see you're here. Um, so yeah, and I had this other experience where I listened to a weekly YouTube um, for presentation with DAT, and I'm not sure what's going on with them. Um, oh, cool, yeah. Nevada. I heard today there's a the David Lynn report. He used to be on Kitco. He has a posting saying that the Russian someone uh, Wagner maybe group or something that maybe are mercenaries. I don't know, for Russia turned around and started attacking Moscow. So, and then I guess something else happened and they stopped. So I don't know really what's going on. I tossed it out there to a couple people around me and nobody's aware of it. So I really don't know what's happening there. Yeah, it's actually well worth discussing and talking about because who knows what's going to happen if escalation happens. You know, it could be higher oil. It could, I mean, it could go anywhere um, as far as that goes, and you know, the stock market could go straight up or straight down. You know, all the stuff that is kind of irrelevant when you're talking about those type of conflicts. But yeah, let's see. Read here what you're saying there. Uh, Almost rebelled. Nobody knows, but it's the most documented war. Lots of videos. Oh, okay. Yeah. Um, I'm sure I will hear about it. Not sure when or how, but I saw it earlier. I don't know, earlier today. So I guess back to the real quick thing about the DAT thing. I was listening and commenting, and you know, not being a fool or anything, and I got blocked for some reason. I'm not sure what. Not really sure what the reason was. If it was AI or some moderator, I'm just not really clear. So it's kind of interesting because I heard DIY was uh, saying that he feels like DAT's failing in some way or ways as well, and I don't know. I don't know if I just don't know what to think about it. You know, I'm not pulling my support or anything at this point, but I did call them and made a comment. I suggested that's not a good policy, and that's pretty much all I can say at this point because if a if a broker is going to be on as a guest, it's kind of rough when a broker is saying that carriers are basically price gouged and everything else, and you know, just kind of talking pretty bad. And all I said is that hey, the brokers made money when all the stuff happened, and they're making money when all the rates went down. So when the rates went up and went down, so I'm not sure how the broker can justify saying that the carriers were acting inappropriately. I don't know what to say about them. Uh, and I think it's groupthink. I think it's lack of understanding of perspectives, and But when the context keeps rolling out and there isn't a balance in any way, shape, or form, it starts to become less less appealing to even listen to the same message over and over, and knowing that it's skewed or inaccurate in many ways. So that's really all I have to say about that. I'm not really ranting, other than just sharing some of the things or experiences as I became a little bit more active again, outside of what else I had to get done for the to make sure I'm sustainable, uh, my lifestyle is sustainable, and make sure that I don't uh, make sure I position myself as well as I believe I can, given my individual circumstance. And if someone's in a similar circumstance, or if it's thought provoking to say, "Oh, wow, I didn't think this," or "Oh, that's not really an appropriate thing to do." I Some people are. I don't know. I listen to David Lynn report, Kitco quite a bit, but less now, um, than I did. And then Wealthion is another YouTube that I listen to. Not to mention Landline now, and DAT, and Freight Waves. I try to I try to get a lot of balance as much as I can, and that's one of the criticisms of journalism currently. Doesn't seem like they balance much of anything, for any reason. I don't know if it's because they have targeted an audience and are simply going after them more like a media versus a news or informative or education or educational. Um, Not saying they're all bad. I'm not saying, but it seems like many have gone that way, and I don't know if it's because this makes me think: have we, as a general, whoever their audience is, if I'm consuming it, I'm part of it, but has our have we dumbed down so many things that that's all people can talk about? Or, I mean, because there have to be experts out there, and I mean, maybe the experts don't get the viewership. I don't know. It could go all kinds of ways, but uh, I don't consume much anymore. I listen to those that are sharing information that is helpful for me to consider. Um, and I'm trying to share some of me, and I don't know how to approach it yet, because obviously, I have a lot of perspectives, a lot of education, a lot of things that some people haven't chosen to do uh, with their time. Um, but I also have a difficult time because I don't want to sound preachy. I don't want to sound like I know it all and everything else. These are just me and some of the things that I do a lot, to take my time up when I have the time that I have. Probably going to end up getting the 34. Yeah, I've only been on the road really for about a week, Nevada. I I got stuck in March there in that Wyoming thing, and I basically almost froze in Wyoming for 3 weeks or whatever, trying to get a repair done and all that. And then once I got that all handled, I got back home and then had to work on trying to manage my life or whatever to make sure I have enough cash available, to prepare for any impending, recessions and things like that, or credit crunches. And um, fortunately, I got my second year, literally second year's worth of self-employment, so that made obtaining credit personally um, possible. And so I had the records to be able to show, and the banks basically won't look at you for 2 years. So I was finishing up into tax year, and a lot of those things that those people that haven't been in business or just thinking about it and starting, hopefully that's good for them to know. Don't expect immediate credit worthiness, even if you have a perfect credit score. I don't know if it's 800 to 850, one of the others. Even if you do, the self-employment is the thing that they basically uh, won't do anything with you, because they don't know how the business is going to perform, and as a business owner, whether or not you're going to perform. And so, yeah, that's a big thing, especially if it's something longer than a 30-day note or something like that. It's probably, when it's a substantial thing, they want to see the 2 years for sure. Not saying nobody else has a relationship, special relationship, or maybe they have some, investment account portfolio that has more than they're trying to borrow, and they can borrow against it like a collateral. So yeah, I'm trying to look into all those avenues, places, to see what I can learn, as much as I can learn, because I want to get to the point where the money works for me, um, and that I can get to the point where it's big enough or large enough. Everybody says retirement or whatever. Well, okay, yeah, I just basically want to get it to a point where it kind of can jumble along, and if I have any kind of issues, that it'll stay. I won't I won't deplete it, kind of like an annuity and all that stuff. But there, people around, I don't know, my demographic or whatever. I don't know if it's millennial or X. It's pretty much in that range there where nobody knows. Um, had a lot of difficult times during this time. 2001, what was it, 2005, 2008, something like that. And then this 2020, and maybe even one in between. So there's a lot of issues that's happened for this kind of generation, if you call it that. Uh, Yeah, so that's all I'm doing. I'm just sitting here. Thought I'd throw one of these videos up, say hi because I haven't been here for a while. Um, Let everybody see my face that's not real dirty this time, and not too bad. Just look a little tired, I think. But the road has not been too bad, so it's only been about a week or so. Just getting back in it, trying to figure out what I'm gonna do next. If I'm gonna be jumping back and forth in and out of the truck a little bit to try to get things finally done at the basically at the house because I had a mess for the longest time. Bought something I've been working on all the time, and feel like feel like a big portion of that's done. I mean, but I still I have more work than I can do really, and a lot of it might be trying to find somebody just to help out here and there. I don't know if I need a personal assistant, to help with paperwork. I mean, I don't know if I can outsource it. If somebody would want to do the 1099 and contract some of this stuff out, then that brings up another question about, well, if it's my records and if they can be remote, and then, I just need a little bit probably support in those areas, as well as, somebody to physically help do stuff. So if employment gets bad, maybe that'll be something positive if for I don't know for me generally speaking, uh, someone might be available. People that actually want to work and all that. I'm not condemning people that don't work, but I'm just I'm confused by a little bit of what I'm seeing out here because they can't staff the mechanics and tire guys and every tire people. Uh, they can't fully staff them. They can't staff the truck stops. I mean, everywhere I go, it's like no, they don't have enough of anything. Whatever the reason, I'm not trying to say what the reason is, but I just don't know. It seems like nobody is choosing to work or not wanting to work, and so that's where I'm at. I'm out here, generally speaking, like the rest of us. A lot of times it's a 24/7 game. There's really there's really nothing else going on other than making sure everything gets done. So that's really what I'm talking about. Just I'll give you an update. I don't know. I don't really know uh, if anybody really knows the experience when I when I was attempting to bring on that driver. I don't know if anyone even remembers, but it was pretty short lived. I was trying to bring on a driver and happened to be, I'll just share it. It's my brother. He was experiencing some uh, unplanned, unforeseen, whatever, just need, needed or wanted an opportunity. And I thought things would be good, but give you an update on him. He did, he got a job there. He pulls reefer and is local guy and works like 4 days a week. Uh, and his schedule, and I think this is one of the biggest contributing factors. His schedule works so that he can see his daughter every time she's available, and she's just a little over 2 years old now. So he probably wants to make sure he's there every moment he can. And so that's the other question that you know uh, that plays into all these things. All the truck drivers know that we do have a difficult time with some of those issues, how to be at home and all that when we need to. Uh, so yeah, that's why I'm upset because I thought that was going to be a perfect opportunity, but it didn't work out that way. So yeah, I'll just sharing that. No harm, no foul. I knew it would happen anyway with anybody. Somebody would end up telling somebody a better story about something, or saying they'll give them more money when they don't. So I was kind of pretty much knew that something might happen eventually, but I thought that would be the best start. So anybody like Faye was in here a little earlier. It's hard. I don't know. I guess it just takes the chance that you got to take, the risk. It's like, all right, well, if you don't have your own accredited school now, uh, you can't get someone on the road or teach them. And flatbeds also another, I guess, has a few other steps in it than, let's say, dry van. Uh, and reefer does too, but uh, that might be the only thing that makes flatbed kind of stable, if that's the way you want to look at it, is because there are people that don't choose to do it for whatever reason. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's a rough one because sometimes it's hard and sometimes it's not. Being active might be a positive, where sitting in the seat for 700 miles a day, day after day, might not be good to even be able to get out and exercise. So, someone getting pushed that hard or pushing themselves that hard, has a few things to think about as far as their health. And maybe they should, if they don't know it now, maybe they should try to incorporate. And I haven't figured it out yet either. So it's not like I've been out here for 50 years or something. But sometimes it feels better to move around and physically, do this and that. Yeah, not sure where I'm going with the rest of the live. If anybody just wants to comment or talk about whatever, uh, I'm like open. Um, I don't think I can bring anybody in because I'm still the early person that's not really fully invested with the StreamYard and this and that and whatever. I think all I have. I think the only capability that I have is just to kind of go live and be able to see people's chats. My biggest issue with the market today, that is multiple, because I don't know which one's the biggest. Um, Nevada, thank you for the question. Um, I know there's a lot of double brokering, uh, type of co-brokering, or just driving the rates down. Uh, I think that's one of the biggest issues. But um, a lot of what I think, um, outside of the drivers just not being as professional as they once were or seemed to be, in the past. I'm just thinking that a lot of it has to do with um, people thinking they understand because they have technology. Technology only goes so far, and it's a wonderful thing. It helps tremendously. There's basically nothing out there that, you know it makes us more productive, but it also creates problems, and those problems continuously get overlooked. They aren't addressed. It's like, okay, well, we educated you so far to this point, but now that it's like, once a person gets a job or whatever, they don't educate themselves further, like take the initiative to do as much as they did before, I guess. It's hard to say. So it says, cost to repair service parts. Yeah, that and and the rate part is the may be where I'm getting to, that people are using the data and they're using that as an excuse to not understand that things change. And if you're looking at data, even if it's real time data, I mean, and this is the point. I'm sure you can agree. If today the price was $200 for a tire, and tomorrow it's $500 for the exact same tire, because someone in the computer changed it because of all their reasons, input costs, etc. And that's what we deal with, input cost, right? Fuel too, but even if you take that one out, you have today was 200, tomorrow is 500. Well, when the person that, I don't know, assumes that data is all knowing because they don't even understand the statistics and blah 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 blah, all the stuff that people talk about, they say, okay, well, here's your rate based on that data point. Well, that data point is no longer relevant today because it changed. And yeah, I don't like that. People, I don't know how to address it with anyone. I don't know how to bring awareness to the issue, because if I suggest, hey, you're wrong, well, as soon as you say you're wrong, you're creating a problem. So how do you address it when people are being like that, when they're stuck? I mean, and that's what I see over and over and over. People are stuck in this same spot, and they refuse to understand, either one, because they're not allowed to understand anymore, because they have some authoritarian, dictator boss, or whatever it is. It's something, socially, whatever. Because the only other thing that that it could be would be that they're just greedy, unhuman people. And if I go there, then there there was never need for them to begin with. So I mean, that's the funny part. But yeah, I'm trying to approach the topic and subject from not being offensive or anything like that. And I don't know if it's just awareness. Somebody needs to think about it, needs to recognize that they have created this circumstance, or that people don't know what they don't know. I mean, I can give anyone that one, right? People, I mean, I don't know what I don't know. So someone just to freshen up some of what's happening is what needs to maybe uh, needs to be experienced somewhere. Maybe it's getting a business group every month, 6 months, quarter, year, whatever it is, and say, hey, everybody, guess what? We're this huge company, and let's talk for a minute about thinking instead of relying so heavily on a data point that may or may not be relevant today versus yesterday. So that one's a really, really hard one. Uh, but I do like the thought, the discussion. Well, Nevada, on that uh, comment there that you made, I what I see, this is what I see here is that we experienced that 2020 thing. I think people can get kicked off or whatever, maybe if they use this, because I've heard so many of it, right? So much of it. Whatever we experienced there that time, the you know whatever you want to call that uh, thing, uh, that was RNA related, because you know if you talk about bacteria, I think bacteria has DNA where viruses have RNA. Well, the RNA thing that happened, uh, that we probably all have or had. So anyway, that when that happened, um, everything dropped to basically zero, and we all know that. For I don't know if it was a month or two, but then after people figured out, how to react, or you know, come out of their bunkers or whatever, uh, then truckers' rates went up due to the demand. Well, that's all fine, good, well, um, um, the shippers, manufacturers, and things like that. From a business perspective, okay, the worst thing for those businesses or industries, it's the absolute worst, no matter what. It's when it's called stock out. That means someone wants to buy something, you can never retrieve that, you can never regain that. That sale is lost because it's not on the shelf when it's wanted, no matter what. So that's the hugest thing for those industries, etc. So that's what was going on. That's why the rates were that way, because that's all they care about is getting the shelves full. And so, based on their structure, they were doing what they had to do to stay relevant in the market, all this and that and whatever, and utilizing their size to do it. So that may have put a little squeeze on them, but not like the carriers that I'm getting ready to talk about. So then it went down. Um, things kind of started smoothing out across everywhere, whatever. And then demand started falling. No, demand didn't fall. If I remember correctly, prices went up. That's what it was. That's what it was. And this further explains it. So when the cost of shipping went up or whatever, the rates went up. Everyone said, "Oh, well, our input cost went up." That's their excuse. We raised prices or inflation, whatever whichever side you want to take, either monetary policy or simply the controllers of the price in the market, those that set the prices for the goods on the shelf, um, the shippers, manufacturers, etc. They say our input costs went up. That's what they say. That's their excuse. So we have to charge everyone else more money. Well, they did. That's what prices did. In whatever industry, it doesn't matter. The consumer products prices went up. Well, their prices went up, and so did the carriers. Their input prices went up. So basically, the carriers just came back to even because you know, they were getting charged more for repairs and everything else. So things should have been, generally speaking, an even keel there. It should have been fine, kind of everything at the higher prices. Well, then they started saying, forecasting demand's going to go down. So they started reducing their levels. And maybe this is speculation. I don't know who's talking about it or where they're talking about it. They had all the capital expenditures. They built all these warehouses because the interest rates were so low. They call it the cost of capital, all that stuff. And that's when you invest in those bigger projects, the net present value of projects and yeah, all the finance stuff, right? So they built all these warehouses. Well, they finally got them. I think they finally got them full or operating. And then they had their cushion back on the demand that they had planned for or knew that was coming or forecasted that was coming. Then they started driving the rates down. And driving the rates down, a little bit of it, there's going to be fluctuations, but the extremes are what's getting me now. And I don't know who else may or may not agree, but the extreme is the extreme. I mean, their prices are generally still at that level. So that's what they're doing on that side of the industry, right? They're holding, they're in a holding pattern. They're not really wanting to drop their prices because they still say their input costs are higher. Well, okay, it has to go through the process, but generally when a price goes up, it doesn't come down. Generally speaking, I don't know if there's a theory out there that says it doesn't. Once you give somebody something, they never give it back or whatever. Maybe that's a human thing, behavioral thing. I don't know what it is, but generally speaking, that's what I believe has happened. Well, when the input costs of the carriers went up at the same time, and then the extreme of just plummeting the rates, in my perception, my observation, what I believe has occurred, you know, this is anecdotal, meaning I don't have any basis other than observation and personal observation and perspective. I believe that the brokers within this system went um, from high volume, taking lower percentages at the higher volume to move the product so that everyone was working together to make things happen. I believe that when the turn came, it was the brokers that took the position that it was their turn to take advantage or keep themselves or their self or whatever profiting, sustainable. I'm not exactly sure what word to use uh, because they are surviving too. Because they said they overhired agents and everything else. So to try to accommodate what was going on. So, it's not like talking bad about the brokers, just trying to frame it in a picture because they, I'll just use like I don't know if it's a metaphor or simile. It's like or as, but anyway, one or the other, one of those. If you made $100,000 in a year off of $1 million in revenue, and those were 100,000 transactions. So you made what, $1 off of every transaction? Maybe that's the best way to. Maybe that'll work. So when the rates for the carriers were high, they made $100,000 or $1 per transaction. Well, when the volume of how many loads were out there, or the demand fell for whatever reason, caused by whoever, however, they want to make the $100,000, but the volume has dropped, so they increased their share of or the percentage of each load to maintain their $100,000 a year, wage or whatever you want to call it. But they may have dropped to $500,000 in revenue or transaction. So that's where that's what they're. I believe that that's what is happening. But it's just like everything else. The input costs of the carrier is still up. The input cost at the brokerages hasn't changed much because there's not much there other than labor cost, and they already filled their agents and laid them off or laying them off so that they're growing or growing off of the carrier. If I had to imagine it to be that way, that's what I think is actually occurring. I think they are, and I think they're taking too much based on the legitimate input costs of the carriers, regardless of too much. And because, see, here's the tricky thing: when somebody says too much or too little, all the marketing people, everybody else is like, it's the market. There is nothing. There is nothing, there is nothing, there is nothing. But then they use the same justifications for everything that they do. So there is an ethic somewhere, and that ethic is also another part of relationships in business, and an ethical business versus a scamming business. If you still want to call them both businesses, one of the things that make them different, one's ethical, one's not, because someone somewhere has said socially or whatever that, hey, that's really wrong, that really shouldn't be occurring. So that's a lot of what I'm saying based on the question that and these are thoughts I've had as well. And I'm glad you brought it up because hopefully someone can see this or hear the my highly educated, uneducated, anecdotal perspective on the overall supply chain within the context of shipper, broker, carrier, kind of generally. Um, not talking rail, not talking ocean, just kind of this one little segment of one little segment. And yeah, everything tells me that that's what's going on. Um, and I too do not completely agree with where things are at. And I guess I can talk a little bit more about the, I guess, experience, education that I've learned and taught. Uh, the goal, literally, in the supply chain and everything else, we all know this is true, but to hear it is another thing. Everyone, and that's not everyone, but practically everyone wants to make their transportation or supply chain net zero. And the reason why they want it zero, and this is one of the largest things that I learned. Um, there's a whole reason why the service is so competitive, so cutthroat, and so important to so many people. I mean, this can strengthen positions, you know, everywhere. The thing is, when you save one penny on the transportation of your items, your supply chain, when you're the big companies showing the public what you're doing as a CEO and everything else, that one penny does not pass go or nothing. It goes directly straight to those financial reports, and that is one penny saved, and that's what they can report to shareholders and the like. And that and it was, you know, you have to look at the reports and how they do this and that and whatever, and where the revenue comes from and where the expense. So I mean, it's a a CPA might be able to, certified public accountant might be able to pass along the information from beginning to end. Uh, However, that would take too long. How's it going with both feet? I did see that. I was just jibber jabbering about all this stuff that we're dealing with out here as we go along. Trying to figure out when the realization in the market, an awareness comes around that, hey, you're getting ready to cause yourself yet another extreme in rates, because there's going to be fluctuation, but when you're going from ridiculous high to low or low to high, whichever direction, uh, people need to understand that this is not good. The people on the spot market, and they trash out the spot market people all the time, and it's one of the reasons is because generally the people on the spot market, right, that rely most on the spot market have less money or influence in the overall picture. I mean, so it's like, oh, that's just one, it's just one, you know, and that's another issue that I think people need to understand, that those people that are kind of blowing off this position. I also learned that there are emergency supply chains that the biggest of the biggest businesses, if they've been educated in this area, if the people within the organization know what they're supposed to know, that are dealing with this part of the business, they need the emergency supply chain to be maintained, and that's roughly 10%. That is roughly 10%, and in order to do that, that is part of their survival. And so they're gonna collapse themselves. Some of these are going to collapse themselves because they're going to refuse to keep their emergency chain active and those things, because it should be around a 10%, generally speaking, and the costs generally are higher, and that's what's supposed to generally happen. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons why it might go up and down a little bit, but you know, just putting a few numbers here are better than uh, are better than just talking about it, because the numbers are more concrete, and you can kind of wiggle that number. If you have if you're a company and you own the subsidiary or whatever, the child company that provides it all for you, and then you're just funneling money to them, or and I don't mean funneling because that might be wrong too, but providing them with the necessary loads to operate, then maybe the emergency just isn't 10%. Maybe it's 8%. Maybe it's 5%, but it's something, right? But that's where the spot market, it's the clash. It's the marketing person says, well, if you'll take it for $1 a mile, I'll give it to you for $1 a mile. Well, you know okay, I mean, it's kind of like saying, did the gun, no, I'm not gonna use that one, because it might cause me some kind of problem with the tube or whatever. But uh, yeah, I don't even know. That's just the one that comes to mind. It wasn't the stone that hurt the person. It was the person throwing the stone or whatever. So that, I think, you understand on that one. So yeah, it's so the spot market rate should be higher because it's an emergency supply chain that needs to stay healthy to keep businesses generally healthy, because the other optimization of all these schedules and everything that these people that are bidding out work, they'll bid work and they put them like mortgage backed securities. They package the lanes just the same way. They put them together and they say, okay, you have to take so many junky lanes that you're unprofitable on, uh, in order to get the good lanes that you make all your money. Um, Hey, Slice of Life and Randall's Pub. Uh, yeah, I see Logic. Kilbasa also. Yeah, I want to say hey to everyone that's jumping in, um, because I'm, kind of ranting or talking and not seeing the chats. Um, so not a whole lot. Slice of Life. The trailer I currently pull is a flatbed, uh, and in the past I've done dry van and reefer or refrigerated. So I've done at least three of them. Um, yeah, that's mainly what I do. But back to that whole supply chain thing about the uh, yeah, 48 foot. Mine's 96-inch wide, so it gets tricky every once in a while on the 96, because 102 in some people's viewpoint is the standard now. And okay, maybe that's what they want it to be, but the 96s aren't all gone yet. So, they just want things. And so, yeah, the supply chain there is, the spot market needs to stay that way to keep everybody or sustainable. And yeah, it's a tough one, because I don't know how many people overlook it, forget it, or uh, prioritize other things like greed or profit. And it's not the same, but it can be the same. So that's kind of my take on Nevada's great question. There's a lot to it. Oh yeah, the packaging. That was the part that, for those that don't know, they package these loads in these packets when they bid them, and they want to. They'll put them in these packets like mortgage-backed securities. High credit risk and low credit risk equals middle credit risk. So middle credit risk, you can offer an interest rate, that absorbs some of that risk. Like everybody's might be a little bit higher than middle or some, So that's a statistic thing, where they do numbers and probabilities and everything else. Uh, so yeah, that's what they do with the loads. And then what happens? Uh, the company that's awarded the contract, regardless of what the contract says, regardless of uh, what is supposed to happen, we all know that there has to be some level of cooperation when something unforeseen comes up or whatever. So anyway, what they do is they have all these lanes that are the most profitable, and they all absorb those first and fulfill that obligation first. And then I guess you would call it the junk that's left over that was put into that packet when they bid it goes to the spot market. Well, that in itself tells you why the spot market needs to also be higher, because they're the harder lanes to service. So the harder lanes, the more difficult, the less opportunity to find loads away from the area. If you go in order to get out, you have to take something lower or whatever. That's the other reason why the spot market is another justification of why the spot market needs to be understood as a higher cost, um, a higher cost uh, service, because it is a premium service, and I don't know where that's been lost, or if no one has talked about it. The spot market is the premium service. Is there are multiple, um, a few different, at least four. I can't remember how many. At least four different ways that you can sell your business or your product. One of those services is the premium service. The other one, you know, it's a higher service level, um, and a higher cost. But you know that you're going to pay the cost because that's the service you're going to get. Well, on the other side, you have the low cost, but your service declines. So there's at least two others, I think, in the middle there somewhere. If you want certain things, but trying to review it all, but I don't have it all right there. So that's the other thing. The spot market is the premium service. It should be considered the premium model. I don't see how you could consider the spot market to be the low cost option, because when they do the RFPs and they do the contracts, that is the business trying to get the lowest cost. I mean, so I don't understand. And the gap, you listen to Freight Waves and things, they'll present the gap between the spot and the contract rates. I'm not sure if DAT provides that one regularly or not. However, the gap between the two is extremely wide at the moment, and it has persisted, apparently. I mean, in my viewpoint, too long for someone to not recognize it, and those that are recognizing it, regardless of regardless if they're greedy or not, are trying to maintain the rhetoric surrounding the circumstance, and they're not identifying that there are other more important reasons from the industry or whatever to narrow that gap. And so yeah, I mean that's a great question and discussion there, Nevada. I mean, anybody that wants to throw something in there, anything. It doesn't have to be trucking or anything, but you know, uh, anything is good enough. I mean, I guess I'm at an hour and 15 minutes, so that's almost a class. So, uh, or is a class or whatever. So maybe that's what us humans have been pre-programmed or indoctrinated into. But if anyone has a point to bring up or anything, that'd be great to hear what others are thinking or sharing or anything. So yeah. I appreciate the likes. Got a couple likes here. Looks like a couple people are still here. I'm not sure who they are, but either way, it doesn't matter. Uh, oh, cool, slice of life. Yeah, I'm not the higher production value. I'm not the person that. Not the person that I don't know. Maybe has enough time or doesn't have enough of the creative aspects to put nice songs and things on here for many people. But I'm glad you subbed. Uh, for sure, I have been trying to provide some of this context. I'm this really weird. I don't know if you call it a highly educated dumb trucker. I don't know. That one might stick around. Um, I drove a cement mixer and a dump truck a long, long time ago, Class B stuff, and then you know around the 2008 time frame, I find myself unemployed or whatever because I let that go back um, because I didn't think I needed it because I started construction or whatever, and it's all this junk. Well, find myself find myself unemployed, so I go back to school or whatever, and I go through all this school stuff, and supposedly I'm supposed to have this job and that job and this job. Well, I couldn't find any jobs anywhere. $12 an hour, general warehouse associate, with a master's degree, in business, concentration global supply chain management, Six Sigma Yellow Belt certification, all the stuff, and so that's why I call myself the kind of sort of call myself a highly educated dumb trucker, right? Um, because the perception is truckers are dumb or whatever. I guess it seems like I think they tried to figure that. I think they tried to change that during the whole issue that we experienced with the RNA stuff. But but yeah, that's what I was thinking. So that's pretty much me and how I land here. Well, slice of life. I'm having a. I don't know how to address that because I guess it doesn't hurt. Uh, what I did is I company drove for about 3 years, um, and then went ahead and saved up money along the way, bought a truck, uh, and opened my motor carrier authority, and I've been doing that for about 3 years now. So I guess that I guess that lets you know that I'm not a lease operator. I'm not an owner operator. I'm I guess you would call it a motor carrier. It was explained to me that way. That was the best way that I understood it, um, because the owner operator suggests that you may or may not have your own authority. So uh, that's the only reason why I distinguish between each one. Yeah, slice of life. That's cool, man. You said you're a flatbed though. Yeah, you're 48 footer. Um, yeah, I yeah, I guess it's more or less just be open here. So I have a brokerage, like at least a couple other people uh, in the tubes that I consume. Um, I'll share those that DIY if you're not familiar yet. Um, and there are some others that. Uh, okay, cool. So you had an idea of what you were thinking and thought maybe that some good things would happen around. I don't know. Yeah, slice of life. I don't know if you bought the truck and went out. You said that was a third quarter, right? I'm just trying to figure out whether or not the immediate, like almost zero rates, um, came back, or when did you start your plan? I mean, I don't know if you had to save up, if you had the idea in your head saving all the way, or if you felt like you saw an opportunity and needed to grab it. I guess that's the question I would have. And I'll explain my thoughts was um, there was a company called Celadon, and I was driving with them uh, when they went out. And and when they went out, they were like the largest or whatever. And I learned some from being there about how they, about the whole leasing on, and you can lease your fleets to other fleets, and all of these things. Well, um, I learned that. Well, they went out, and I thought, okay, well, this is a market share. This is a collapse. If they're the largest at the time that went under, then there's going to be an opportunity out there that everybody's going to try to grab all this extra volume to let them grow if they can do it. Each company had their own constraint on, how many trailers they could buy and how many drivers they could bring on. But everybody was trying to take as much as they could get. So I thought that that was a good opportunity, and trying to, I was trying to do it sooner, but I ended up having to work another year or year and a half, something like that. And I kept thinking to myself, man, have I missed the opportunity? Have I missed the opportunity? Well, uh, I finally got the truck, and I thought, well, I'll just get the truck, you know, cash the truck to put me in the best possible position. The truck can sit until I built up everything. I had all these thoughts. Well, so that's what happened with me. I finally got it all figured out and going, uh, without having huge numbers to start. All at once. It was kind of sit this over here, sit that over there. You save it in the bank until it was time to be able to achieve that or whatever. So that's how that one started. So I didn't know whether or not didn't know if you had a like completely well thought out plan of attack, or if you saw an opportunity and was like, this is what I have to do right now, and just made it happen, because it can happen any way, right? So, and just to let you know, I am sitting in Missouri, uh, as I'm doing this live. So I think Prime's pretty big in Missouri, so that's cool. You probably know that. I'm assuming. Uh, all right, so you got your goal was to be independent from the start. Got lucky trading the options, and that put me over the top to get started. Got in the perfect time because rates exploded right after I got started. Yeah, that's it's kind of like me. In some ways, things just happened and were positive. Just making, just doing things made your own, fortunes or whatever, however you want to say that. Um, because I don't think I could have planned it much better. That's the thing. A good plan is always good to have, but it doesn't always turn out the way it was planned. So yeah, see, my current position is the truck's paid off, trailer's paid off, and that might be the only that might be the only reason for me being able to not be as stressed as some people might be, because I've heard the stories about the lease purchases where they don't seem like a good thing, and someone gave me that or reassured me that that wasn't the right way to necessarily go because of all the horror stories that they have. They have a brand new truck, but you know they can't drive because you know they're they can't eat. Just little stuff like that. Just some extremes. Uh, yeah, the I have done a variety, probably more regional than most things. I'm based there in Indiana, so Midwest is where it's all going on for me, or generally speaking. And so I'll go out. Seems like that 700-mile thing is a big need in the market because it's the junk that I was talking about earlier of the packages. They can't run, the companies that get the rates, they can't run, 700 one way and 700 back or something, and keep their drivers and, the whole, all that stuff, because that's a weird number right in that lane and stuff. So that, yeah, that I'm probably more or less in that 700, 5 to 700 mile. A lot of times, sometimes I've been experimenting here lately, and maybe it's because of the conditions in the market. But uh, one broker and place that I run out of, uh, I guess you'd say more consistently, um, has some shorter options for me, whether or not that's necessity or not. So yeah, that's I'm maybe trying to do some of that 150 300 mile stuff if I can get it regularly, because it's spot market. I'll kind of have a regular lane for a little while, at least so far, and then it'll switch up, and then there for a little bit I got some more along the junk lines, really really hard on me, the truck, and the places to go, no, deadheads forever to get the next load, stuff like that. And that's what I'm referring to as the junk. I know everyone needs serviced, so I'm not taking a position that any of them are literally junk, but I'm talking from the perspective of the hardest stuff to service out there. Uh, I have gone, I guess, on the yeah, since I've had my MC, the I think the furthest I've gone has been Idaho. Yeah, I don't know if you, I don't know if you'd call Idaho or Nevada. Uh, I don't know if you'd call either one of them the furthest away, but I would say that's probably about the furthest away I've been as far as a long run. I've been considering Washington a couple different times. I have some multiple brokers that I can look at now, um, but sometimes their rates are just not worth me hanging around or trying to work with them much anymore because they keep offering rates that would make me literally pay them to do it, because you have to have yourself, as well as I do, you have to have yourself set up for some sort of growth, expansion, or sustainability. Those people that are saying, okay, well, I have fuel, I have insurance, and truck payment and plates, and then if they include their own, you know, pay, that's not enough. There's more to the story than that. It takes more money to keep things going. You got to pay contractors or employees to do some of the business stuff. You have to pay, let's just say, a factoring company their percent of the revenue in order to facilitate, if you call them a contractor or whatever, you know, um, you have to pay to, you know, park or garage your, vehicle and stuff when you're not on the road. There's so many things, and then if you put in, you need a place or parking, or if you want a maintenance fund, well, you have to put that in there too. People forget that. So all these numbers aren't including all the stuff that needs to be literally in the cost or the input cost. Uh, oh yeah, uh, yeah, I'm listening, man. East Tennessee there. I don't know if it's northeast, southeast. Uh, yeah, I mean, I'm out here saying uh, that a lot of us should try to work together in some capacity. Uh, yeah, I mean, in some way, to help each other a little bit because we're just out here one person or whatever. So anything we can do together is great. Um, and yeah, I see. Yeah, that's North Carolina, West Virginia. Wait, let's see, North Carolina, probably North Carolina, Virginia. There's that 135 that you go down through, and then I've been over there often. Uh, I think that's Knoxville. I don't know if that's Knoxville or not. TA over there. I drove through their parking lot, and they had a big piece of rebar sticking out of the parking lot where they used to have a pole or something, and they didn't have it marked or anything. Blew my tire. They refused to replace it. All that stuff. They wouldn't let anybody else come onto their property. I was frustrated with that TA. But anyway, that's a story there in Knoxville or whatever, and then I think Bristol's up there somewhere, and uh, so yeah, I guess I know Tennessee a little bit. I guess you would say some family and stuff like that. But yeah, yeah, out of the West is terrible. I went to this was even during the best rate times. I went out, got a good load, out to Colorado, and then on the way back it was like $1.50. I couldn't get out of that place. I mean, it was I had to drive on US 40 up and down this mountain. I mean, it was great. It was a great view, everything else. Nothing wrong with that stuff, but um, yeah, it was bad, man. Out of the West coming back is terrible. I haven't found any connections to get me back. I have a basically have found someone that has loads, but they're paying so little that I don't really call them. I look to see if I can find anything else, or kind of triangle out somehow. And yeah, so I've been out there more than once. Um, so yeah, that's what I do that. And yeah, let me address the factoring is a good idea. Um, I'm gonna have to say this from the perspective, if you know, think, and believe that you're going to, I guess you would say, not lease on to anyone, like, voluntarily revocate your authority to go lease on to somebody, or grow the business beyond the one person. And it's kind of, this is the way I see it. But I factor, and everything that I've been taught and everything else tells me that that's the right way to go for an individual positioned the way I am. So yes, I would say that it's hard. It's not advice necessarily. It's more of a perspective, is how I'm, the position I'm coming from. However, I do see, if you already have a system in place, and it sounds like you do, of where you already can do the click and goes, or are already set up where you don't have the trouble of getting paid. The part that gets tricky is how much how many bad actors have you come across to this point? Um, because there are a lot of, and maybe you're already over all the hiccups and everything of getting started, um, but there are services, at least in the circumstance that I'm, uh, the factoring company I factor through loves, you know, great. Give me a promotional deal, or give me $150 if you choose to do it. Whatever, all that junk, right? That's not what it's about. But anyway, so um, so I factor through loves, and there are some advantages, and I'll share them with you. There may be other advantages elsewhere that are much better. You may be set up with Prime somehow, and I don't know Prime. Maybe you get discounts everywhere, all that. Well, some of what I um, feel as a positive initially, I still do get the discount, but I have other fuel discounts that beat the one that Love's provides to me during in their packet of things that they offer. Um, I still fuel at Love's, but the, there's the whole different. You probably do the mud flap. You probably do the other stuff that I've learned from other the pro driver legal protection thing and EFS and Comdata and whatever. But uh, so they establish kind of like a line of credit, like a revolving line of credit. So let's say you have your packet set up, you go drive to their, you have a flat tire or something, or you need an oil change. You go to their Loves or Speedco, drive right in. You have an account set up with them where they essentially give you a credit line and you can have work done. I'll just use an example. Let's say an oil change, let's say it's $500. You go in, you get $500 worth of work. It doesn't come out of your pocket, doesn't come out of your bank account until you finish your load and you factor your load. Factor your load, they take their percentage, whatever that is, whatever they offer to you if you do it. Um, and so they basically can help you keep things going. So you have that $500 oil change, and then you go run a load and you factor that load. They take their percentage, and then after they take their percentage, they take the money that is owed to them, and then your balance goes to zero. So it's like a revolving kind of line of credit. But they allow you to do that. You can do it with the fuel too if you want or need it. So it's kind of like as soon as you start, you almost have an instant credit, and so 15 or 2,500. I think they raised my limit because when fuel went from 2.60 a gallon to $6 or whatever, they had to raise people's credit because you couldn't. I mean, $1,000 would give you a half tank, and that's it. So anyway, that's how this particular program generally works. So it kind of like gives you an instant credit. You get some discounts here and there. They're not huge. Like some people are saying that they have these discounts that are uh, tremendous, and I keep looking into or exploring as many as I can. Um, so it's I think the discount part is a work in progress. So yeah, I I think this is good enough program. The whole part about the quick pay. I don't know if you have trouble with them back charging you for something or not paying you or slow paying you, but some of these click and goes and everything are saying get your stuff in 24 hours. That's about how it works with the factoring here at Love's. You don't get paid on the weekends because the banks aren't open. Little things like that you need to know or get used to about the process. And I don't have any experience with the quick pay. If you deliver on Saturday, I don't know if you send in your information and they actually transfer it some way, or I don't know. It might be not possible on the weekends for everybody. I don't know that. So yeah, but generally, from my perspective, where I came from, that's a good opportunity um, to have a little bit of a cushion because as many cushions as you or your business can have uh, likely will keep you going when others cannot. And that's the reason why I say that's a good thing to do. So it's a rough one now because of the technology. I will say that, um, but I've heard that they're really hard to get out of too, because you might have a broker slow paying. It might take 90 days for them to pay, and if you terminate your contract and everything else, you might not be able to get paid or something um, without paying that off first. One of the two. There's a little trick in there that I haven't explored because I don't think I'm going to be changing immediately or anything. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Some of these brokers show that there's a quick pay that is like in 24 hours. So I don't even know. A lot of what I do on the flatbed is drywall, cement board, lumber, steel. I haven't done as much steel as people might think. And a lot of it's because it's just all of them want tarps, and they all tear the tarps. So it's like, so you're going to give me $1,500 extra each load to replace my tarps after each load. So that's one of the things until I can find something that doesn't require tarping or coils that generally speaking uh, aren't the aren't the poke through poke and rip your tarps to pieces uh, until I get a good idea of what to run. I've done styrofoam, um, so yeah, quite a bit of stuff there. Hardy board, yep. I've done Hardy board. Is it called Trex? Is that the other competitor? And maybe it's not a competitor. Maybe that's the other Trex out of Virginia. There, I'm not sure. LaSalle, is that the Illinois? Yeah, I don't know where all the Hardy boards are. I think I've been to the Chicago. Yeah, but those aren't bad loads either. Cement siding or whatever. Uh, some people tarp them, some people don't. Oh, I forgot shingles. I've done shingles. Um, I haven't bought Nevada. I haven't bought any batteries in a couple years. Um, there are there are at least two different kinds. Some of them are like 500 a piece. I haven't gone that route yet, but I've been thinking about the uh, cycle. The I don't know if they're the glass ones or um, but the cycle rate. How many times they can be cycled. I think is a good way to go for a semi truck that doesn't have an APU. Uh, but if you have a functioning APU, I don't necessarily know how many cycles the batteries will go through. I think I paid 180 or 199 a piece for some batteries that have lasted 2.5 years so far. So yeah, it's hard to say. I just saw some of them because I might have to get some. Um, I don't see any issues yet, and I don't believe they're failing. And I don't know how long they'll last, or if I'm just being good and not burning them up. Oh yeah, yeah. I would say if you got the high cycle or whatever that was, at North something, or the big dollar ones, that wouldn't be bad for the $1,000. But if they're the cheaper ones, then I would say that would be high. $1,000 for four of them. No, let's see. No, yeah, I don't know. It's a little high, but I haven't priced them in a year or two. So yeah, I think you're not. I don't think you got taken. I don't think somebody hurt you too bad on them. Yeah, so that's where I'm at with that. All right, well, I appreciate everybody coming in. I'm glad people were here hanging out and gave me a chance to talk about a few things, and hopefully somebody uh, gets some enjoyment out of whatever I was saying. So I appreciate it. Thanks, Nevada. Thanks, Slice of Life. I think I have all my information there on the page if anybody wants to talk about flatbed and whatever, just to bounce ideas off of people, whatever, see what's going on. So I always have to throw it out there just because, just a dumb thing I do, I guess. All right, well, later, everyone, and appreciate it again. Have a good night. And you know what it is? I'm trying to remember. Try the alternative. There you go.